Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a little movie review for the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie. I finally got around to watching it, and I'm incredibly excited to talk about it. I thought it was pretty good. Let's dive into this.
Modern movie review.
Okay, so right off the bat, I am going to go ahead and issue a spoiler warning, as I do with the majority of my videos. I'm going to be getting really in-depth with this movie, so there are things that could potentially be spoiled here. I'm going to give a quick, kind of brief, spoiler-free thoughts for the first minute or so, but I will let you guys know when I am fully diving into spoiler territory. So, right off the bat, to talk about this movie, I think that this movie does a really good job of kind of, picking up where the last trilogy kind of left off. I was a little interested to see how they were going to take this story forward, because I know it takes place 300 years past the original trilogy, but the way that they kind of connect things to the original trilogy works, and I do think it is still a good movie for if you haven't seen the old trilogy. You can come in on this one and have a general idea of what's going on. That being said, still definitely recommend checking out the original trilogy beforehand. There are a lot of emotional moments and stuff like that that kind of hit a little bit harder having recently watched the original trilogy. So overall, I think that all the characters in this story are very interesting. I think that our main character who we're following here does a really good job of kind of not necessarily being the same character as Caesar from the original trilogy, but feeling like he has a similar vibes. He's very compassionate. He has a sense of humanity that some of the other apes do not have. And he feels like somebody you would definitely want to follow into battle. He's a very powerful, kind of a leader of sorts. And I really like that. I think that Noah, the main character, is pretty great. I really like everything that he does on screen. The actor who plays him did a really good job. The villain, the main villain of this movie, it's Proximus Caesar. Pretty good. I wish he was on screen a little bit longer. He didn't have a whole lot of screen time, but he was great when he was on there. Once again, presence, absolutely fantastic. He was huge. He was big. He felt bombastic. He felt like somebody who was definitely a threat anytime he walked into a room. Very scary. His voice was absolutely fantastic. Once again, the actor, Kevin Durant, absolutely killed it with this. I said Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durand. Sorry. But yeah, overall, the visuals and everything looked great. The storytelling was fantastic. I think that the first half of this movie was pretty good. The second half of this movie was pretty good. There was just a lot of parts in the middle act where I feel like it was a little slow and it could have been a little bit better. And towards the end of this movie, there's a 15-minute period towards the end of the movie that I'm I feel like this is just tacked on at the end to kind of add to the future story here. So it's okay. There are definitely parts of it where I feel like it slows down a little bit and the pacing is a little bit off. But as it stands, I still think it's a very solid movie. And I'm going to dive deeper into it now. So if you guys have not seen the movie yet, here's your official spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about stuff that happens in the movies. I might reveal things that you don't want revealed to you. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can click off now, come back and watch this video later. But that being said, going to fully dive into this now. Okay, so right off the bat, the first thing I want to talk about is the opening sequence, because I was not expecting this movie to have anything to do with the original trilogy that I just watched. And I really love the fact that this movie starts off with the funeral for Caesar. I think that everything about that was really good. The fact that we got to see him being put to rest, and the way that they did a very beautiful ceremony for his death, and that entire funeral sequence was just cinematically one of the best funerals I think I've ever seen in a movie. It was really beautiful. It was really well done, and very symbolic. And the fact that they ended it by doing the symbol, ape together strong, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely loved everything about that. And then immediately we do a time jump, and now we're kind of in a very different area, which I thought was something that was interesting. Is the gorillas have kind of switched into different clans, and there's some of them live over here, some of them live by the beach, some of them live in the middle of the woods, stuff like that. And we are introduced to what is referred to as the Eagle Clan. This group is very much against going out and slaughtering people or murdering for sport, something like that. They raise eagles. They teach the eagles how to hunt for them and how to go fishing for them, and then they live off of the food and they live off of nature very well. And I think it is really interesting how they kind of create that clan. I think that stuff is really good. When we first are introduced to the main characters, they are out on a little adventure where they are going to go find eagle eggs, so that way they could bring them home and they could get it's kind of teased that there's going to be a big ceremony, and they're going to be basically I'm trying to think of like a bar mitzvah type thing, but it's just a coming of age moment for their specific tribe. And right off the bat, when we do this little adventure, we get really introduced to Noah's character and what's it called? The other ones, there's Anashi, and then the other one's Luca or Luna or something like that. All of them very interesting. They're just little teenagers who are going out and having fun in the middle of the woods. They definitely seem like they're having a great time. We get to see them climbing around and using a lot of their skills to their advantage, which is really interesting. It does a really good job of kind of like setting up what these characters can and can't do, so that later when we're dealing with certain conflicts and stuff like that, we have a general idea of where our main characters are at this point in the story. And that's really interesting. What's it called? The three of them, they go out, they get their eggs that they need to get, they come home, and then later that night something happens, and the main character, Noah, his egg breaks. And he's like, crap, it's the middle of the night, we're supposed to have our ceremony tomorrow, I need to go get a new egg. So he decides to go off into the woods in the middle of the night, and this is where our story really starts to take off. And everything up to that point, that was like the first 20 minutes of the film, it felt very slow and very like, okay, what are we doing here? What's actually going to happen? And this is where things immediately start to ramp up. We see humans for the first time. They are all slaughtered by some group of apes. The group of apes finds the horse that Noah rode into the woods with, and then uses that horse to find them back to where he came from. And they burn down his entire village. And that entire sequence was insanely emotional. There was what's he called? I don't know the name of the main gorilla for this. This is something that really threw me off a lot. Was Proximus Caesar is the main villain of the movie. It was kind of like already shown in the trailers that he was going to be the main villain of the movie, and we were going to see a lot of stuff dealing with him. But he had some like lackeys who were like being generals and who were going out and like doing all of his bidding for him. And none of the generals ever really get names. Like we just know that they're big gorillas that are, you know, fighting people and taking them back to this camp that they end up going to at the end of the movie. And what's it called? They destroy the entire Eagle clan. They take the majority of them out captive. And then they kill Noah's father. Very emotional death scene. Noah wakes up. They thought that he was dead, so they didn't recover his body or do anything with his body. And it starts off our journey of he's trying to figure out where this group of apes just took his family. So now we kind of have the parts of the movie that I actually personally think I enjoyed the most, even though a lot of people online are probably complaining about this stuff because this is like where the movie gets really, really slow. But we have a whole lot of world building here, and we have kind of like the first sign of like, okay, what has happened in the last 300 years? Because when we first started off and we were watching Noah and his clan and everything, I was so confused because I was like, are they not even going to like attempt to tell us what happened in the last 300 years? Why are there different groups of people? Why some of them know who Caesar are? Why other ones don't know who Caesar is? And what's it called? Noah meets this older monkey. I call them monkeys. I don't think monkeys are apes. So I'm literally saying like the one type of like that kind of animal that it can't be. But he meets, I believe it's an orangutan named Raka. Really cool character. He's kind of like Maurice from the original one. He's the elder character, and he teaches him a lot of the stuff that's going on with like the clan that's currently going out and killing other apes. And he's talking about Caesar and how these people don't really seem to know Caesar the way that they should know Caesar, and they're kind of like twisting the words of Caesar, which is something that I thought was such an interesting message to bring in this movie. So for people who do not know, twisted like religion is like a huge thing that happens all the time, where people will like twist the words of God and they will try to like manipulate people into believing certain things because, well, Jesus said this or Jesus did this or whoever did that. And the way that they kind of like hint at that in this movie and the way that they address that as a giant problem, where a lot of people think that Caesar was 100%, you know, just saying that the apes need to work together to be strong. They completely missed the second part of his quote, which was also that apes do not kill other apes. So the apes are working together, and at one point, Proximus Caesar will say a line, something along the lines of like, well, it doesn't matter how many apes die in order to get this thing done. We need to get this thing done, and we're stronger together, so it's okay if some of us die for, you know, the mission. It's okay. Whereas Caesar would never believe in that because apes shouldn't be killing other apes. And on top of that, he's also creating kind of a dictatorship, which is not really what Caesar was trying to do. Caesar, in my opinion, I'm going to compare this to like history for a little bit because I am a giant history nerd. Caesar was kind of like George Washington for the American like Revolution or whatever, where he was such a big deal in it. He was the biggest part of it. A lot of people do not think that the American Revolution would have happened without George Washington being the leading commander. And whenever things got done, everybody saw him and was like, that is the guy. He is the coolest person ever. We need him to be our leader. And they wanted to make him a king. They wanted him to be the leader for the rest of his existence. And they didn't want anybody else to be a leader. And I feel like something similar to that is what was going on with Caesar back in the original trilogy. Caesar was just so powerful, so strong that they wanted to follow Caesar. And I guess whenever Caesar passed away at the end of the last movie, it probably created kind of like a power vacuum and kind of created a lot of different leaders wanting to step up and being the next like Caesar. And because Caesar was as good as he was, he obviously was the only leader. They didn't have like create a system where like, okay, well, whenever he passes away, somebody else is going to be the leader, and then they're only going to be the leader for a little bit, and then this person's going to be the leader. So it kind of started like a new monarchy type situation where it's like, okay, well, this person's the leader because he was raised to be the leader, or this person's the leader because he's raised to be the leader. They didn't do a whole lot of explaining the dynamics of the politics here. Like, we don't know why Proximus Caesar was the person who was the leader, but him being a dictator was something that I like really wish they dove more into, because I feel like it's because things just kind of got lost in translation, and the way that the apes work together and the way that the apes wouldn't treat the other apes as slaves is something that clearly got lost in the last 300 years. And I really wish that they dove into that a little bit. I think that Rocca does an interesting job of kind of explaining how they've really lost their way. And I think that he's a very interesting character, and I love everything that they do with him throughout this movie. And overall, I just love that he's the elder character who actually understands things and is kind of like trying to teach Noah about certain things that he's not aware of. And he was a great mentor character. I really love him. Why did they kill him off? But that being said, overall, he's great. The fact that he's kind of used as like the glue who brings together our main human character and our main ape character, and, you know, has him teach Noah that these humans, they're not bad, they can actually be really good, is great. Another thing, while I'm on the topic of the human character, I love this series' ability to kind of like stray away, what's it called? Subversion of expectations. That's the word I was looking for. Because we know that humans can speak, right? Like, we're humans, we speak. And what's it called? At the end of the last movie, there was still a pretty decent amount of humans who could speak, but because like the main characters we were staying with were, you know, Nova can't speak because she has the disease. Woody Harrelson's character towards the end of the movie got the disease, he couldn't speak anymore, and it kind of became this big thing that like humans don't speak. And whenever May started speaking and it was fluent English and everybody could understand what she was saying, there was a giant audible gasp from everybody in the theater that I was in. And I love that this movie was able to do that. They were able to take something as simple as human speaking, which is something we already know they can do, and make it this just like super shocking thing. She spoke fluent English. It was absolutely fantastic. Her name was May, and I love the fact that they kept giving her so many different names. She was called Echo. She was called what's it called, Nova. And the joke where Rock was just like, oh my god, we're gonna name her Nova, and he's just like, we name all of them Nova, we don't know why. It was just so funny. Like, that's such a meta joke about the previous movies, but I loved that. And then her being like, my name is May, and it's just like, oh my god, she can speak fluent English. And the way that they both, Noah and Rocker, were shocked when she started speaking English was the funniest thing ever to me. But I absolutely love that. The journey and stuff that they go on together is fantastic. The fact that they get caught kind of sucks. And whenever they first finally make it to the kingdom, as Proxima Caesar kept referring it to, they found out very early on that Proxima Caesar, kind of a dictator, kind of a really terrible villain. He was a solid villain, though. I will say this, I don't think any villain that they have is ever going to get as close as Koba, but he definitely had that aurora to him. I think that he definitely had like a great energy, and he had a great feeling as a villain that I definitely think they lived up. I mean, they were able to make expectations. They were able to meet my expectations with a villain. I wasn't expecting a villain as good as Koba, but I was hoping that they would at least have a pretty good villain, and he was pretty good. I really liked him. Overall, the entire last act, I really have no notes on. I think that everything worked out relatively well. The fact that he had got to reunite with the people he loved was nice. The fact that he finally learned how to call the eagles to him was really cool. And my favorite thing that I do want to give a lot of credit to, whoever's decision it was in the script and the screenwriting, part of making this movie, who was like, okay, we're going to have Noah save an entire group of people from a flood. That was great. That was genius. I love that. That was literally perfect. But yeah, that being said, overall, really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, the last 20 minutes kind of felt like it was mostly set up for other things because the human went their separate ways. The original people went back to their old clan and they kind of reset up things that they were working on. And it kind of seems like there's going to be a lot more human characters in the future of this franchise, which I'm a little intrigued about. But that being said, overall, had a great time with this movie. Thought it was solid. I don't think it was as good as that entire last trilogy that came out, so I'm gonna give it probably like an 86 out of 100. There was definitely a lot of pacing problems for me. A lot of like jokes that didn't hit the landing, and then also just some moments that just like felt like they were purely in this movie to be something that they can call back later in future movies. But overall, I liked it. I thought it was good. And yeah, that being said, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow. Bow. Bow.
Back at it again, but that's a relevant flow. So smooth, they calling me Mr. Elegant. Like an elephant, I got a long nose. Like a president, I've got a few hoes. Swift with a stutter, I'm smooth like butter. Don't see it coming when I slip undercover. Like a big dog, but I don't bite. I'm still a big broad, I'd win that fight. Come match you and I knock out your lights.